Welcome back. All right, part two. So, sent the engine off the machine shop like you guys had seen before. Once we got it there, we figured out that it had a stroker kit in it to a 416, so an LS3 stroke to a 416. Has an Eagle crank. It's got Manley rods and pistons. So internals were definitely fully upgraded, forged, all kind of set up. So cool, we know what we're working with now. So got the engine back. Got on the phone with Sicky and ordered their LS swap kit. Now I knew that some things were going to work just right, some things weren't. But I figured let's test fit it, let's get it all in there. So went ahead and test fit it, got it in the vehicle, make sure everything was fitting where it was supposed to be. At that point tried to figure out what type of room do I have in this thing. Is there enough room to run intercoolers right off the front? Do I have to run them off the fenders? I'd like to run an AccuSump system since I'm not running a dry sump in this system. So do I have room to run the lines down the firewall or out the firewall, down the actual frame and where I want it to go? Power steering cooler, is there room again on the other side to run everything else? So I've had it in the car now for about a month, going through, checking everything, trying to see what fits. Made sure my chase base radiator fits. It's a 3-core radiator that's kind of specifically for this vehicle. It also mounts it more towards the front, which gives me some room to do a little bit more frame reinforcement, as well as custom design kind of a oil cooler, power steering cooler mount, so that way it all kind of works from there. While I also had the car, or had it in the car, I decided that let's go ahead and figure out with where the shifter location sits, which it does fit factory, how would my hydraulic handbrake go in? Where would it go? How would it fit? How do I make sure I got room for the master cylinder? I mean, it's a tight fit in these Rx-7s, and you know, I'm 6'2", so I had to make room, kind of adjust the seats and get everything right, steering column, to make sure I fit in it correctly. So I want to make sure everything else fits the way it's supposed to. Got that kind of put in, got it all situated, so at least I know where that all fits. The last thing I was waiting on was I ordered a fast intake, 105 millimeter, from Texas Performance. Those guys are awesome. They kind of helped me out with getting it set up from what I needed and where I wanted it to go. So I knew I was going to run into issues with whatever intake I was going to put on it, put it really close to the firewall. Well, really close is an understatement. It probably needs an additional 1.5 to 2 inches on the firewall to make sure everything fits to where you can access it and get to it. Some of the pictures I've seen online of people that have done LS swaps and these things, they normally have to run the fuel lines right off the back of the fuel rail, and it kind of goes up and over the motor and ties down from where it's at. And I kind of wanted a cleaner look than that. I'd like it to actually look like it tucks down the firewall, goes back to where it's supposed to, versus having all these excess braided lines running over top of the intake and then kind of down and around the side of the motor. So we're at the point now where I need to pull the motor and transmission back out. It'll give me time to prep the engine compartment. Any old holes, factory holes that I'm not going to use, not going to run anything through, I'd like to weld all those up, grind those all back down smooth, make sure everything looks super clean when it's all done. As well as I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to cut out the firewall and make sure it all fits. Now if you guys look, everything's super close. Right where the firewall ties in from here, I've already kind of welded up the pinch weld that was along the side, but I still need a lot more room, and I figure since it's got this rounded edge to it, I might be able to pull it back just a little bit, create kind of like a little box section that I can roll it down and make sure it all fits where I want it to go. So that's kind of our next step. Don't know exactly how I'm going to make it all work, but I figure, hey, I'll figure it out as we go along and kind of go from there. So next step, pulling the engine. Alright guys, engine and transmission is now out, so next video will be going over the idea of the firewall, how we're going to put it all together. Thanks for sticking around, thanks for watching what we got going on, and see you in the next video.